back to Overland Effects. It's been a while since we posted anything or been on the trail. We've had some life difficulties out here, but we are now out on the trail again, getting a nice little run in after Christmas. It's day after Christmas 2021, and we are trying something that we've never done. It's called California BDR, Backcountry Discovery Route, which is typically a motorcycle trail. We're trying it out to see how it looks. So come along for the ride and enjoy it.
The California Backcountry Discovery Route starts in Yuma, Arizona, and will travel approximately 817 miles up to Benton, California. The BDR will be a series of off-road and on-road sections that vary in length. The BDR is meant for adventure motorcycles, off-road motorcycles, but virtually any high-clearance 4x4 can navigate these series of trails. The first section of the California BDR is 120 miles long and takes you along the Colorado River. This section consisted of hard-pack, well-established treks and sandy washes. There are a couple of established campgrounds along the way, including Picacho State Park. There are also some areas of BLM land where you can camp for free, but you'll need to travel past Picacho to get to the BLM areas. We stopped where one of the trails ended, directly at the Colorado River. The water looked so good, but it was so cold. And I really love these little series of whirlpools that were constantly created by the underwater terrain. We opted not to camp at the end of the river because of the high cost per night, and it wasn't sheltered from the wind, so we left the river behind and continued down the washes. We ended up finding a great little campsite on BLM land off to the side of a wash. It was protected from the wind and it was out of the way of any other travelers running the BDR. That night we splurged and I cooked up some grass-fed steaks, big old T-bone and a New York strip. They were so good, and the sunset from the desert that night couldn't have been any better.
Well, welcome back to day 2 of BDR. We got on late yesterday, so we only got about 30-40 miles in and found a wonderful camp spot. So there's 4 of us on this today, or this trip, excuse me. And so we're having a good time. Obviously, it's not too hard so far, just a lot of either washes and or graded roads. But other than that, kind of fun. At this point, if you guys are enjoying this video, hit the subscribe button, give us the thumbs up, because we appreciate it and we greatly hope that you come back and watch us some more. Hope you enjoyed today's drive.
Day 2 consisted of treks from Blythe to Sahara Oasis, and it took us to a more rocky section of the BDR. Here, a small section of the trail got washed out from recent rains, and while it doesn't look that bad on video, it was a little tippy. For motorcyclists, this little washout wouldn't be any issue whatsoever, but for four-wheeled vehicles, you'll just need to watch tire placement. This section of the trail will also take you to the Blythe intaglios, which were discovered in 1931. These giant pieces of rock art are similar to the Nazca lines in Peru, and the shapes are believed to have been formed prior to 900 AD. From the trail you really can't see the shapes too well, as they are pretty large, but using Google Maps here, you can see the actual shapes, and they're pretty cool. We found a great campground along the trail, but we did have to contend with a train that made its way past 2 times late that night. After a dinner of beans and weenies, we turned on the Christmas tree lights and hit the sack.
Well, we're starting day 3 out in the middle of the desert, so we're about 60 miles past Blythe, and it's cold out. Yes?
Hot hands.
Hot hands. So we've got about 60 more miles till we hit our next spot, which is Desert Oasis, and then we're thinking we may make Prim tonight. Trail again, it's not real hard. There is some little areas between Blythe and Desert Oasis where it gets a little bit rough and you get some whoop-de-doos, but it's not so bad. Good times. I can see why motorcyclists only do one of these a day. So we're having a good time. Continue on.
For many sections of the California BDR, the trail is more of a high-speed off-road highway. The roads are graded and in good condition, where you can reach speeds up to 50 miles an hour. While this type of trail is the fast track to getting where you need to go, it can also get a little boring in a four-wheel vehicle. This section thankfully offered a little bit up, not necessarily challenging, but at least it was more varied terrain. Along this section of trail was an old kiln factory. We decided to stop for a beauty shop. If you're going to stop here, note that there are hundreds of nails and other objects just waiting to embed themselves in your tire in this area, so be warned. As we started to climb out of the low desert and into the high desert, more and more snow started falling. The temperatures took a drastic turn, and as you can see from the view, there were some seriously dark clouds moving in. I do have to apologize that there weren't more out-of-the-vehicle shots. It was just so cold, and we were on a tight schedule to try to beat the weather at our final destination, that it just didn't give us enough time to get more varied footage.
Walk on it.
One of the coolest sights on this section is the Evening Star Mine. This mine is still largely intact, and at the time was used to mine tungsten and tin. Like whiteout conditions headed our way. Yeah. So we're at the Evening Star Mine. It's right behind me. And we're in like almost blizzard-like conditions. It's headed this way. We can see it's just white out there, headed this way. Oh my god, it's cold. But Yeah, that mine's pretty cool. Just cold.
Good morning, day 4 from the California BDR. We made it from our camp spot we had yesterday into Prim. We did about 150 miles total. Nothing too outrageous, kind of fun. A lot of high-speed areas. And today we are in section 4, which is the Death Valley section. So we're headed towards Furnace Creek. We do have some fun excitement that's going to be going on. We have a winter weather warning. So last night when we got to the end of section 3 and had to get on the freeway to go to Prim, get fuel, it was so cold that it actually forced us into a hotel room. It was in the mid-20s. So when we woke up this morning, it was still 27 degrees. So we're headed towards Furnace Creek, like I said. We don't know what it's going to be like because through all the websites and stuff, we've been able to do research. It says that it's supposed to be a winter weather warning, and it could be in the low 30s with snow all afternoon. That could make changes for our trip as well. So we'll bring you along, and you guys can take a look and see what you think.
The Coliseum mine is an open-pit gold and silver mine and started operations around 1930 and was active up until 1993, producing around 7,000 ounces of gold each month. Visitors used to be able to drive down and around into the mine, but now unfortunately the road to the bottom is closed with a locked gate. Once we left the Coliseum mine, the trek takes you back down to the lower desert. It was so interesting in this particular section, the color of the plants from one side of the road to the other. We speculated that maybe there was a fire, or perhaps water shed from the mountains gave more water to one side of the road than the other. Whatever the reason, it was still a beautiful sight. On the way to Furnace Creek, you'll drive through Badwater Basin, which is the lowest point in North America at 282 feet below sea level. The salt flats here cover about 200 square miles and are composed mostly of sodium chloride, which is basically table salt, along with calcite, gypsum, and borax. At the northern edge of Badwater Basin is an area called the Devil's Golf Course, and is defined by a crust of hard salt and mud shaped and eroded by the wind and rain. We were just about to cross the highway when one of the trucks unfortunately had a problem. While moving forward, the truck would make a terrible clanking noise and the wheels would shudder. So Jeff got under the truck to see if he could easily identify the problem. Initial thoughts were that this was an axle issue, but it ultimately turned out to be a much easier fix. One of the brake caliper bolts had fallen out and the other bolt had backed out and allowed the caliper to slap up against the rim when the brake was applied. Had this happened while at full speed, it could have been catastrophic. We were still hoping at this point that we'd be able to make it through the pass, but all reports from Death Valley Rangers stated that unfortunately the weather was causing various passes, including Titus Canyon, to close, and that travel was not advised on any of the trails. So I pulled up by Overlander and looked for a place we could stay for the night. There are plenty of established campgrounds around Furnace Creek, but given the chance, we always prefer primitive camping instead. So I found a spot called a Hole in the Wall, and it was perfect. Hole in the Wall is a first come, first serve, and we chose a spot about 6 to 8 miles up the trail. It offered us shelter from the wind and some beautiful views of the mountains. The next morning, we all decided to cut the trip short. Rain and snow was moving in, and with Titus Canyon being closed, there really was no way to continue along the BDR. So we all packed up and called it a wrap. We are planning to try to finish the California BDR later in the spring or fall, depending on schedules and, of course, weather. Thanks for joining us on our BDR adventure. We hope this video inspires you to check out the various BDR trails throughout the country and make your own experience. Thanks again for watching, and get out there and explore.